Nigeria clocks 65 years as an independent state, having gained, of course, independence in 1960 from colonial masters. As expected, Nigerians will roll out the drums in celebration of the country's Independence Day. In the sporting world as well, will not be left aside, and that is why we've taken our time, to, of course, do a special edition of the show. Nigerian sport is no doubt a mixed bag of success, failure, and disappointment in the last 65 years. The country's athletes and teams have won laurels, crashed out, and failed to qualify for international sporting competitions at different occasions. Nigerian athletes, teams, and have also been banned from taking part in continental and international competitions as a result of doping violation and age cheat. It is common knowledge that even as Nigeria has not lived up to her potentials in sports, the sector has remained one of the country's most potent agents of unity, just as it is a serious diplomatic tools. However, the general consensus has remained that Nigerian sport has failed to achieve its full potentials, as the country's sportsmen and women have been blowing hot and cold at international competition since independence. Within this period, Nigeria has produced sportsmen and women that have made the nation proud at regional, continental, and international sports competitions. Although there are many, the ones that easily comes to mind are the late Dick Tiger and Hogan Bassey, both world champions, ex-Olympians, and Isaac Ihoria, Peter Koniwachi, Chioma Ajunwa, Falilat Oseku Ogunkoya, Segun Toriola, Jeje Okocha, Emmanuel Amunike, Kanu Nwankwo, Funke Oshonaike, Olasoji Fasugba, Tobilola Amosun, and many others. These sportsmen and women have inked Nigeria's name in gold among sporting nations of the world, but most Nigerians believe that the country has failed to achieve her full potentials in sports when compared with less populated and endowed African countries like Kenya, South Africa, Ethiopia in world athletics and Olympics. All right, let's hold it there. Kingsley, before I head to Bassey, let me bring you in. 65 years, just like you made it clear in your intro, a 65-year-old man is experienced, wise enough to have, so many good story and bad story to tell. First off, at 65, have we been able to meet up your own expectation as an individual in the area of sports?
Yeah, I don't think we'll really, of course, meet up my expectation, especially my expectation. Especially when you take a look at what countries like, South Africa, Morocco, Kenya, Ethiopia, of course, are currently doing down here in Africa. When it has to do with sports, you ask yourself, is Nigeria really the giant of Africa that we call ourselves? Are we really giants? We boast and say, okay, we have enormous resources, we have talent, and all of that. But when it matters most, when we go out to compete, do we really come tall? That's actually the big question. You take a look at it, I don't think we've actually achieved a lot, when it has to do, with sports. Though you will say, okay, maybe in football, Super Falcons, yes, they've done a very good job winning about 10 WAFCON, tied to. But take a look at the national team. Super Eagles, they've been able to win just 3 African Cup of Nations. You take a look at the enormous talent we have. You ask yourself, can't we do better than that? It comes to athletics, where we always struggle. Every time whenever we go out for a competition like the Olympics, what athletics are and the rest of them. So far, so good at Olympics. We've not really done well. I think about we've actually amassed about a total of 27 medals so far. Thank God for the para athletes as well, who have, of course, have been there. They've always showcased themselves on a very good note whenever they go out there. So if you take a look at it, Mike, overall, I don't think we've done very, very well. Boxing used to be one of the sports, of course, that Nigeria, used to come to, but all of a sudden, boxing is nowhere to be found. We cannot talk good, something better again when it has to do with, of course, boxing, in the country. Even the federation itself, they are not really that, active, as a stand. Tennis, of course, used to be one of the sports, of course, that we normally put up impressive performance. You just mentioned Teriola, in your listening. And Teriola, of course, used to be a very good table tennis, player. Done before. I think he's maybe the coach of the federation, as a stand. But when you take a look at the table tennis federation at this point in time, our players are not doing well. Aruna is struggling. The likes of Fatima Bello, of younger them, and the rest of them, they are not really living up to expectations. So for me, if you take a look at it, it's not really been that top-notch for Nigeria when it has to do with sports. Are we talking about facilities? We don't really even have the facilities, of course, to make sure our athletes are well trained, for them to also train in using the best of facilities, and all of that. So for me, if you ask me, Mike, I think we've not really done enough. 65 years. 65 years. Morocco, they actually use about 10 years to put up a good, sports system. Put the 10 years, they actually use 10 years, of course, in putting up good stadiums, making sure that their football system is in good shape. And today they're doing exploits, when it has, not even with football, even in athletics. Botswana today, how many years did it take Botswana to start putting up their athlete? And they just concluded the Olympic. They had a very impressive performance. They came top in the 4 by 400 meters or something. So you take a look at the way other African countries are developing, maybe not all the sports, but in areas where they know that, okay, we can do well at this point in time. You see that they always comfortable. You come to Nigeria, where can we possibly say at this point in time that we're very good at, that any day, any time, you call on us, you call on Nigeria, that will definitely do well. So, Mike, 65 years has come, and from what we're seeing, Mike, in sports, I don't think it's really been top-notch. I'm not really impressed with what we've been able to do so far in the space of 65 years in sports.
All right, let's head back to Basi and have his take. Basi, with the pool of talents that Nigeria boasts as a country vis-a-vis the achievements made in 65 years thus far, will you say that we've been able to maximize the pool of talents that we have right here in the country?
We have talents. Yes, Nigeria is a talented nation of talents scattered all over the country. But it's one thing for you to have talents, and another thing for you to put this talent to use, for it to work for you. When there's a saying that when talent fails to work hard work will beat talent. And so when you are a talented nation, then you have failed to harness this talent, to put the talent together to work for the good of the nation, you will just have the talent and then you don't get to win laurels when it comes to it. For 65 years, just like Kingsley said, I agree with his submission that we've not done greatly, we've not done very well. Yeah, they've been the good, the bad, and the ugly. But for me, I think the bad and the ugly is way higher than the good. Looking at, a country that has stayed for 65 years and there are still a whole lot of challenges in the area of sports. Let's even start with the infrastructure, like he said. You can have talented athletes, but if they don't have the right infrastructure to use, to develop their talents, how do they compete at the global stage? And you're competing against the best of the athletes coming from the best of the countries who support sport, who have these facilities, in quality states. And so you come to Nigeria, sometimes you go to the stadium and you see athletes running without spike shoes. You see, the weightlifters not having the right or the right kind of equipment to use in training. And so you're going for a Commonwealth game, you're going for a World Athletics Championship, you're going for Olympic Games. How do you compete when you're going against those who for the last 2-3 years have been practicing and be using the same kind of equipment and facility to be using